Hey, everybody. Let's make sure we're all good here. Live from Denver. It's Friday night. Hey, welcome to Critical Conversations. Hope you all are, sounds good and everything. Oh my God, 1 a.m. Oh, Miss J, you are awesome. Yes, here we are on Friday. And as you can see, I am not joined this week by my beautiful wife, Melissa. I'm very sorry. She is taking the night off tonight, and we are going to let her. Some days life is kinder to us than others. And that's just how it goes. So I'm pretty pumped tonight. I'm a little excited about doing this live stream for a number of reasons. I've actually been pretty pumped in general for the last 24 hours. I know we're not going to go deep on this. I'm not going to get all political, but, I'm pretty happy about certain actions that happened in New York, right? I really am because, y'all know how I feel about narcissists and about predators and about people who, take advantage of other people, and talk about people who take advantage on a broad scale to the tune of, lots and lots of money and lots of effects and consequences, and unfortunately very negative ones in a number of ways. So it's really, I said I really believe that I have been consistent and outspoken about the fact that from the time that Donald Trump announced and from when the race was really going forward, that at Sensibly Speaking 1.0, back when I was working with Ruth here on that show, that I said, look, this guy's a criminal. This is not just an opinion I have. I'm not just like some biased left-wing nutter. This guy is a criminal. He's mafia connected. There are problems here, like real problems. And, and I got told, stay in your lane. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. No, I did know what I was talking about. And I'm definitely going to, to pat myself on the back for holding strong to those convictions all the way to now. So this show, in fact, tonight is very, very much inspired by that event, and by what's been happening in the last 24 hours, and by what's been happening for the last many years when it comes to people carrying water for narcissists in in the ideological political world. We see it. We're so beaten about by it on social media and on our news media that that it's the world we live in, and people just kind of shrug and, oh, this is all perfectly normal and this is the way things should be. And I disagree. I really don't think things should be this way. And I don't think that we should have predatory people in power. And that's such a problem because, of course, so many predatory people are the ones who seek power in the first place, Anyway, this isn't about all of that tonight, but this talk about the topic tonight of flying monkeys is very much going to... Oh, thank you, Cynthia. So this show is very much applicable to situations in and out of cults. I wanted to lead tonight with that, but I also wanted to tell you guys before we go into that any further, and we are going to get to the Benson cam in a second, but I also wanted to share with you that I'm also really happy and really excited right now because I have started my next new big project. And it's not a video project. It's a project. And I'm going to just kind of dribble drab what I'm working on over the coming months, I think, rather than do what I've done in the past of over-promising and under-delivering. I have a plan. I'm following my plan. It's working this year. And remember, this is the year of cult recovery for this channel. That is what I'm all about on my Speaking of Cults rebranded podcast, as well as the main theme of my work this year, while we go off on other tangents from time to time. I have really been sticking on that line of talking about how to get over and get past and move on from from a coercive, horrible, awful, traumatizing situation that's happened. Because if there isn't recovery after that, if there isn't a light at the end of the tunnel for people coming out of those situations, why bother? Because there's a whole lot of light in that tunnel, if I stretch this analogy, when they're in the cult, when they're in the coercive relationship, when they're in that situation of manipulation and the abuse and the constant, nonsense also is what's the word? Alternated with, the trauma bonding stuff, the reward and the penalty and the reward and the penalty. And so it can feel like you can't leave, you shouldn't leave. This is the only true answer. This is the only place I can be. This is the only person I'm ever going to find who's going to really get me. And, these lies we tell ourselves to keep ourselves in these manipulative situations can feel pretty good, or otherwise we wouldn't stick with it, would we? If we're really being honest about that. And once we get out of that, there's a real existential crisis that can happen for some people. And the trauma and the identity issues and all the stuff can be a real challenge to understand, to get your wits around. And it can be really black and it can be really bad for people. And so there needs to be a light at the end of this tunnel. And there is. But it's really gotten there through the slow, steady progress of educating yourself and working on yourself and working on the people around you, which is kind of what this show's about tonight, so that you have a support network, so that you have people you can count on, so that when oh, thank you, Chad, for that super chat. Appreciated. So that you have a life that you have created for yourself that is worth living. That is worth moving on into in the future. And I think that's I think that's worth something. And so I want to help people with that. That's the whole point. So, okay, so let's go ahead and do our Snuggles Not Struggles cam, because you guys I got a haircut this week. Well, so did our puppy. Check out our little Benson cam here for this week. This is Mel here earlier today, proof of life, as she is teaching him how to walk on the treadmill. And she's obviously using the little treats there, and he's learning. He's actually learning how to exercise on our little treadmill there. And we thought we would get that for ourselves, but also maybe during the winter months when it's snowy and stuff out, and we just can't take him out for a walk in that we might still get him some exercise if we trained him how to use this thing. So far it's very treat oriented, as you can see, but we'll be trying to work on that so we can get him to actually do, what is it, the stupid pet tricks, right, of running on a treadmill and keeping himself fit. But you can see he also got this wonderful haircut, and you can see his beautiful eyes and fluffy tail there, and he's just absolutely loving this. So I thought you guys might love seeing that too. All right, so there's our Benson cam for the week, our Snuggles Not Struggles cam. Just love our little dog. And now with the heat out now in here in Denver, I saw you guys talking about the weather earlier. It's hot here right now. It's high 80s. I think we're supposed to get 90s before too long. But we had thunderstorms last night that I almost took video of because they kept going on and on and on. I was sitting right here looking out the window of my house here, and the sky was alight with thunder and lightning. I mean, just lightning strike after lightning strike after, and big, huge, like lit up the clouds, lit up the sky. And it was impressive. It's so impressive, in fact, other families were coming out in the neighborhood and going on the porch and looking too. I almost woke up. Mel, it was late last night. It was like 10:30. And oh my God, it was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous, but it was so awe-inspiring. I mean, if I was thinking while I was looking out the window, I was, people were driving around, it was late at night, whatever, activities. And I was thinking to myself, what if all this wasn't here, back on the frontier, back on the plains, right? Nomad life. you know, just being unprotected out there or having a little shelter and being right up against nature like that, and lightning strikes and then the thunder and everything. I mean, and it went on and on and on. I kept thinking, yeah, of course people believed in gods. You know, when you have no other explanation for what you're looking at, and the majesty and awesomeness of really live nature is on display in an open, you know, kind of semi-dangerous way. You don't know where those lightning strikes are going to hit, right? Man, you really, it's such a, it's really quite something. It's a fun feeling. Anyway, I was really, you know, taken with it. As I don't usually talk about this stuff, but yeah, it makes you feel small. That's right. It really does. It really puts things in perspective on this planet being its own thing, right? This planet's been around a lot longer than we have, and it's going to continue to be around for a lot longer than we are, no matter what happens to us. And when you really kind of think about the long-term picture of things and the perspective of that, it helps me, maybe it helps other people, I think it does, to put your own situations into perspective a little bit, you know? And not that our lives are unimportant or don't matter. They matter very much to us, and they should, you know? But it sometimes helps to get that bigger picture perspective of things and realize that while your problems are big and impactful to you and very, very important, you know, there maybe sometimes there's other things to pay attention to also. For me, it's a great way of dealing with some stuck attention, or you know, trauma responses, or whatever you want to call it, right? When you're feeling kind of stressed or anxious. Sometimes that helps. Okay, so I have also been excited this week because I have been aware of the existence of Dr. Ramani. She's a YouTube creator. She's a licensed clinical psychologist, and we are going to be watching her tonight. Surprise! I have a surprise for you guys. But I have not really dived into her channel super deeply. Surprise. I mean, I've talked at length on this channel about narcissists. Well, she's definitely somebody who's made it her career to discuss narcissism, its effects, its consequences, how to handle it, how to deal with it. And somebody sent me a video this week, and it was about this concept of flying monkeys and how to handle them or how to deal with them. And she's produced 3 or 4 videos on this. And I was going to draw from 3 different videos that she had created to talk about this issue, but I was so taken with the first one that I found, which is an early one she created a few years ago about what this whole thing of flying monkeys is about. And I thought, you know, I could sit here and talk about it, or I could let her do some of the talking about it, and maybe I could comment on some aspects of what she has to say, because she's the licensed clinical psychologist, and I'm going to be the first to admit that I am not. And so I've thought I would do a little show tonight, and I'm not sure how long this is going to go. I'm anticipating we'll still keep it, you know, to around an hour or so. But I've got about 20 clips pulled. Oh, and by the way, this video tonight is not monetized. If commercials pop up on this, it's YouTube doing it because I said no ads tonight. I am not trying to monetize this because I am showing her content, and I don't want to risk this being taken down or copyright struck or anything like that. It's important enough to me that I just get this out to you guys, okay? This is a purely educational effort on my part. This has all kinds of applicability to me in my life, but that's not why I'm doing this show tonight. I want to share that, but I also want to share the fact that this is, she doesn't have 1 million subscribers on her channel for no reason. This is a very common problem. And it goes way beyond cults. And it goes beyond politics. It goes beyond religion. It's a human thing. This happens. Predators, narcissists, people who want to get one over on you and strategically manipulate you and use you, they're all over the place. There are, statistically speaking, millions of them. And there is 0.0% chance that you've never run into one. You probably watching this show and are interested in my work because of the fact that you have run into one or more than one of these people, and they have had something of an effect on your life. Unfortunately, it takes, and you'll hear about this tonight, unfortunately, it takes that kind of thing to open up people's eyes sometimes. Well, I'm trying to be a little more proactive than that, and I'm trying to be a little bit more, hey, let's pay attention to this stuff before it has to destroy your life. Maybe, possibly, you could learn some of this stuff and use it so that doesn't have to happen to you. That's what I want, Okay, got a lot of Post-it notes here. So, and the other thing about this is that, God, there's so much gaslighting involved. There's so much to this that people who are the victims of narcissists, of predatory personalities, become afraid, become anxious, become fearful. The way they talk, the way they look at things, the way they think and act is very much informed by the overwhelming emotions and doubts and fears and uncertainties that the predator creates in the life, not only the mind, but the life of their victims. And there are very, very rarely just one victim in the life of a narcissistic personality. They specialize in going after and hurting and taking advantage of all the people around them, as many as they can get away with for as long as they can get away with. And there's lots of patterns to their behavior, and there's lots of red flags and lots of ways to see this. But tonight's show is about the people around the narcissists, because how do I say this here? I was, well, we'll get to that. So yeah, can become a little paranoid. That's right. And people around them can start negatively reacting to the victim of a narcissist. And anyway, like I said, we're going to go into all this. So first off, why don't we just get started? I'm going to put up on the screen here a small screen clip of Dr. Ramani. And I'm going to play segments from this video that I clipped. And this is all just from one video that she did. And I'll put a link to it in the description to this video after the show. I didn't think to do that before. So if you want to go, but we're basically going to watch the whole thing in bits and pieces. I cut out very little of it. So why don't we go ahead and get started with the first part, where she defines what it is we're talking about.
You ever watched the movie or read the book, The Wizard of Oz, this concept of the flying monkey is going to make sense to you right out the gate. In the story, the flying monkeys were sort of the minions, the kind of dark, mean assistants of the Wicked Witch of the West. They would do her bidding, and in the story of The Wizard of Oz, they would terrify Dorothy and her friends who were making their way to Oz. The flying monkeys did the dirty work that the Wicked Witch did not want to do and made her seem even more terrifying. The Wicked Witch, in essence, trained these monkeys to do this. And they basically bought into her propaganda and gladly complied. They themselves never bothered to get to know Dorothy and the Tin Man and all the rest of them.
All right. So we have these little black spots in between the clips I pulled. I went in and split it all up like this. So here we have a definition. And I don't need to restate, Dr. Ramani's words there, but I did want to highlight or comment as we go through this a few ideas or, comments I have. First one being that this point that she made, and she'll go into it again later, that, you don't even know the person or people that are the flying monkeys, often aren't aware of both sides of the story, because that's part of the problem, of course, is, and they don't even bother trying to find out. And that's where, when you have seen me, I think tonight's, one of the reasons that I was absolutely floored by this video that I'm showing you tonight is because I thought she was talking to me directly. And I don't experience that phenomenon very often when I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm well aware that people make videos for, anybody who's watching, millions of people. Hardly ever have I experienced that, oh my God, this person is talking to me directly. And that was very much the feeling that I had tonight. I hope that a lot of what is shown tonight, or what we talk about, or what was gone over here tonight, might help explain some of my reactions and behaviors over the last many months. Because there has been an awful lot of feelings of betrayal, from my end, in feeling like I've been working so hard to try for so many years to educate people about narcissists and predators and what they do and how they go about doing it. I mean, and then to watch it happen in my own life to me, well, it's explained in this video. So there's been a lot of emotions and feelings that I've had about things, and I've expressed those from time to time. So anyway, I just hope that some of what's discussed tonight will help explain some of where I'm coming from and why I've, had some emotions connected with some of this. Okay, let's carry on.
Now, the supervisor in this person's story was saying increasingly inappropriate things and making everyone in the workplace uneasy. This person who was telling me this story, she said she couldn't endure it any longer, and she started the process of making a complaint against the person. In the weeks that followed after she made the complaint, she found that not only were the administrators in her workplace, the people who she thought would protect her, they were painting her out to be very difficult. And they had started an investigation into her work record, but interestingly, not into the perpetrator's work record.
Okay. Hey, Henny, welcome to the show. Yeah, so this is an example from a workplace scenario, and we'll get another example in a minute from a relationship scenario. This is applicable in every single aspect of your life, and I really wanted to highlight, underline, boldface, all of that, and put it on spotlights. This is not just a culty thing. This is a relationship thing. This is a friendship thing. This is a work thing. This is a religious temple place thing. This is a political thing. Oh boy, is this a political thing. And you're gonna, and you asked about whether these are weaponized empaths, and there are different concepts, but they can definitely be related. And yes, so sometimes instances of flying monkeyness involve people who are actually very empathetic people. And as she said earlier, they buy into the propaganda of the narcissist. And that's key. That's key to understanding what's going on, is lies are being told, deceitful, deceptive narratives are being created by the narcissist to cover their ass, make themselves out to be the victim and hero at the same time. across the boards, and I don't know that we've seen as stellar an example as we've been watching play out on TV all week, of exactly what I'm talking about here, right? Where you take somebody who is just a straight up criminal and he turns himself into the victim of everybody and everything, and everyone who is enabling that person around him is not necessarily a sociopath at all. They are sometimes incredibly well-intentioned people who want to see things get better for people in the world, and they care very deeply about things, but they get fooled. They get conned. And then all of their energy and compassion is used in service of the narcissist. And it's this twisted pretzel worldview, and so it gets a little like, but there's also apathic people who are not particularly empathic, who also by thousands get turned into flying monkeys. They're easily swayed one way or another. They're not particularly strongly committed or strongly feeling people, but they hear a narrative and they go, well, that makes sense. And they don't think about it further. And then they adopt the cause of the narcissist, and they're off to the races. So it doesn't necessarily mean a weaponized empath, but it could very definitely include that. And when I talk about weaponized empaths, this would definitely be a way that they can be weaponized, is turned into these flying monkeys. I mean, hell, I was a flying monkey for L. Ron Hubbard. We all were. And when you're in that role, there are certain dynamics at play that, even though when you leave the situation, you leave the cult, like we talked about, you still have this habit. You still have this feeling, this need of, well, there should be somebody telling me what to do, or there should be some director directing me or something. And, and you got to like kind of unlearn that, but not everybody does by a long shot. So anyway, all right, let's carry on.
This person, this narcissist, this supervisor this woman worked with, had done a really terrific, and I put terrific in quotes, terrific job of sharing gossip and innuendo about the woman I had been talking with. And in the days that followed, her colleagues actually started taking her aside and asking her, why can't you just see that he's just having fun with us? Stop taking yourself so seriously. Before this entire saga ended, and it's still, I think, going on for this poor woman, but before the point at which I had talked to her about it, she said it wasn't just the incident, but it was also the conduct of the people and the leaders she thought she could trust that had taken a toll on her. And in essence, the narcissist had sort of converted everyone over to his way of thinking.
All right, cool. Red Pill, I got your comment there about that. I put the black spots in. They're about a second long just for myself, so I would know where to hit pause. Totally for me. Sorry if it's distracting. Okay, good. So yeah, start slow. People turn on you and it's like, what the hell's going on? And this is where, see, the thing I wanted to comment on this segment real fast is it's not just the narcissist or the predator who gets you doubting your own reality and gaslights you and gets you into this twilight zone feeling. It's the people you trust. It's the people you know. It's the people who think, who you think have your back, who suddenly are turning on you. Or this crowd of people, right? Social proof of, a bunch of people are suddenly coming at you who maybe you don't know, don't trust, but who are these people and what is this all about? And here they are, viciously attacking you, having made all these assumptions about you because of what they were told, or that they adopted this narrative that was given to them, some story that they were told about you. And again, we're off to the races. And so it's not, I just wanted to make that point because it's an interesting one, that it's not just a one-on-one problem when you're dealing with a predator. The predator creates allies, as many as they can, and they send them your way. And that's what the flying monkey phenomena is. Pretty interesting stuff, I think. Okay.
I constantly encounter flying monkey stories in divorce cases. A person is married to a narcissist for a long time, and when things start falling apart, the narcissist actually starts spreading gossip and innuendo to their mutual family members, to their friends, to anybody who knew both of them. And before you can count to 3, the family members and the friends start looking at the victim of the narcissistic abuse suspiciously. They start wondering, why is this person who actually was victimized, why is he or she being so difficult? Why is he or she not giving the narcissist a chance? Now, they may not think the person's the narcissist, but why aren't they giving them a chance? And why are they making things awkward for everybody?
See, that's what I'm talking about, right? Why are you making it out, right? That's when things start getting really weird for you, is when all these people are suddenly confronting you and telling you you're the problem. You're the one who is making things awkward. You're the one who's making things difficult, you know, or these casual passerbys who hear one side of this thing and then go, oh, well, there's 2 sides to every story. So you're just you're on equal footing with this other person who's been victimizing you, right? That gets to sound really, really like that starts like the walls start getting thin, you know what I mean? And this is absolutely one of the ways, by the way, just to flip the script for a second and talk about this from inside a cult perspective, for example, this is one of the ways that you could say this is the mechanical way that the us versus them is installed in cult members, right? How are they turned into these flying monkeys? How, in other words, cult members or people who are under the sway and influence of a charismatic leader, and become slaves to a dogma or to a belief set. This is kind of how, right? And it really sets up this otherness. This is this sort of like us versus them thing. And I just think that's kind of interesting to notice. You know, I just wanted to kind of comment on that as a point. Let's take a look at another way of defining this.
So let's be clear. Let's be clear on what exactly these flying monkeys are. They are people who subtly or directly are targeted by the narcissist, in essence, to do the narcissist's dirty work.
There you go. See, they're doing the narcissist's dirty work. And this is one of the ways that a narcissist can stay, or predator can stay hidden, or can stay clean, can stay out of sight, out of view, is because these other people are the ones around them. They're enablers. There is a word I have used many, many, many times to describe these people, these kinds of people, is they are the ones who put themselves forward. They're the ones who are willing to show their face, make the noise, cast the insults, make you out to be the bad guy, right? Sometimes they get really passionate about it too. How dare you criticize, attack, vilify, otherwise have anything, look sideways at, my hero, the predator. How dare you? And they become quite emotionally involved in this. If they meet resistance, right, from the victim, from the target, they can start, now it's game on. Here we go. And now you don't have just a predator making your life difficult. This is fair gaming. This is a whole army of people who are making your life difficult. And if you ever wondered why this is so goddamn overwhelming for people who are in cults or who are the victim of fair game attacks, whether it's JWs, Mormons, I'm just using that term, right? Scientologists, political opposition, religious opposition, any context where this happens, it's a one versus many situation. And that many often doesn't get talked about enough in a weird way, because we focus so much on the center of the problem, which is the predator. But the predator often remains hidden from any public view or remains innocent within public view, because they're not the ones, right, doing all this stuff. They're turning all these other people against you, right? This is not just some YouTube problem. This goes on obviously in everybody's lives. And she said there, she talked earlier about that divorce case. This is relationships, this is work related, any of these contexts.
Once the narcissist is in a situation in which someone is going to, leave them or call them out on something they're doing. So for example, an example would be that initial anecdote I was giving you about that woman in the workplace, or maybe even in a family. It becomes very important for the narcissist to save face, to look good, and to come out on top, to win. So then they find the people that are close to their narcissistic abuse victim, as it were, or close to both of them. And they start using a variety of techniques to manipulate these other people. Now, what ends up happening is that all of this is ultimately painful and punitive for the victim of the narcissistic abuse. Because in essence, what's happening is that the narcissist is mobilizing the people around the victim of narcissistic abuse and turning all of these people into a sort of a mini army that allows the narcissist to maintain whatever public image they want to look like the good person, the good guy, and making the victim of the narcissist look like a bad person. And what happens is it results in that the victim of the flying monkeys also loses their usual sources of support, because they've been recruited by the narcissist to do their bidding, and the victim of narcissistic abuse is now gaslighted by people that they thought they could count on and traditionally who were there for them. It can feel for the person who's going through the narcissistic abuse as though they're being gaslighted by the entire world. For such a person, it might feel like there's no one left to trust, and it can feel deeply isolating, and it can feel deeply, deeply destabilizing.
All the above, right? So, like I said, I was hoping that some of this might explain some of my recent decisions and behaviors, because this is exactly what it's felt like. And this is exactly what it felt like in Scientology too, by the way. So again, here is happening outside the cult. It can happen inside the cult all the damn time. Is you start waking up to what's going on around you. Maybe you start getting on the fence a little bit. You start looking a little bit more critically at what's going on, but you dare not say or do anything to all these people around you, because you suddenly realize that you can't trust, you can't connect as deeply or as strongly as you thought you could, because they're so committed to the cause that the cause is far, far, far more important than you will ever be to them. And this could be your mother, right? This could be your dad. This could be your kids, whoever, your best friend. You know this person for 20 years, right? In the Sea Org, I knew people for decades. And I knew that there came a point where I couldn't say a word to them, because they were kind of what I had been, in a flying monkey for L. Ron Hubbard. And so you find yourself suddenly alone in a sea of people. You find yourself feeling like you have no support system of any kind. And because it's been taken from you, like you had it, you thought you had it, it looked like it was there. And maybe in the case of, real world stuff where a predator comes into your life, you did have a support system. You did have friends. You did have people who you thought had your back. and then suddenly they're all gone. So there's this sort of like vacuum that gets created in your own network, in your own life, because of this. And boy, is that, what did I wrote down here, you know, so much, the victim's convinced no one will believe them. It comes across in words, emotions, sensitivity, trust issues, you know, all of that, right? Because you suddenly realize that you can't talk to anybody. There's nobody who's willing to listen. And you're like, wow, I thought I had something there, and it's just ephemeral. It's just gone like vapor. And that's the damage that predators do to your life. They're not just mean to you. They don't just, you know, it's bad enough to be physically abused, to be sleep deprived, to be food deprived, to have your finances controlled, to have the information you have access to have that be controlled. It's bad enough to have all that happen. But we are incredibly social creatures. I don't care who you are. We are social creatures. And you got to have your tribe. You got to have your people. And when all your people are suddenly gone, or suddenly you realize that they weren't your people in the first place or something, you know, there's different scenarios here. Wow, right? That like that's the kind of damage to our social needs and our social life that comes with this, you know. Similar, Gordon, in terms of Hubbard outlining and the suppressive person stuff. But Hubbard didn't get quite this deep with it. But yes, this is related to some of what you're referring to there. Yeah, in the materials. Okay, let's carry on here.
Now, narcissists train their flying monkeys to do a variety of things for them. And these can include anything from spying on the victim to get intel on them. So an example of that might be, I don't know, in a divorce, flying monkeys may let the narcissist know that their estranged partner might have gone out, I don't know, for a cup of coffee with a guy, or drank too much one night with a group of girlfriends. Now, in the workplace, this can also happen, and it can result, for example, in the flying monkeys exploiting a friendship that they may have with the victim to find out then that someone has bent the rules in that workplace and taken home files that they weren't supposed to take home. And so now what happens is they get that intel, the flying monkeys get that intel and can use it against that victim of narcissistic abuse.
Exactly. Henny, your comment is spot on, right? You're also blamed for the abuse that you sustain. Why didn't you leave? What did you do to bring this to happen to you? Spot on. Exactly right. Right? It's blame the victim, blame the victim, blame the victim. And as she was just going over, this gossip thing is really key to understand. I mean, she's nailing it with this stuff. This is why I was like, damn, this woman is talking to me across so many situations that I've had in my life in and out of Scientology. And clearly other people as well. And so this business of intel and it becomes like a spy operation. You've got people spying on you. Like, what is happening right now? How is this possible that this is occurring? And people just fall into this pattern of behavior. They just do it. You know, they think they're doing it good by spying on somebody else. It's really quite something. But it happens every day. All right, let's see what else we got here.
Now, one of the key tools that a narcissist often uses with their flying monkeys is gossip. Now, again, none of us are immune, right? Gossip is juicy. It can seem like you're part of a dirty secret when someone is sharing gossip with you. And narcissists are aware of the power of gossip, and they use it. They use it liberally in family systems, in relationship systems, in workplaces. And they'll often initially use gossip as sort of a way of sharing a little secret, like entertainment. And everyone sort of gets seduced by a little gossip. And once they have their potential flying monkey on the hook, they keep sort of upping the wow factor on the gossip. And before long, they have the flying monkey believing these sorts of exaggerations of the truth that the narcissist may be engaging in the name of sort of this gossip.
There it is, right? X-Science says here, I've seen people at work spy and then snitch on others to the boss to garner favor. Well, it may well be that that person was actually motivated and encouraged to do that. And they're not just a snitch, although clearly that's the role they're playing, but maybe they were induced into doing that. And that's the hidden nature of this is, you know, you're like, what, you know, the intention, you don't know where they're coming from or what it is they're actually trying to do. But this gossip point is crucial because this is the frog in the boiling water phenomena that none of us see when it's happening to us. It's so subtle, it's so slow, it wears on you. It erodes your values, your ideas, your morals, your beliefs gradually over time in such a way that you don't really see the change that's happening to you as this manipulator, this professional predator is having his way with you. It can take weeks, months to turn a person from one position to another. And over that time, the sort of manipulations of the predator are all but invisible. Really, the way I should describe it, actually, is the ropes that the predator is tying to their flying monkey are invisible chains. Little puppeteer ropes, little strings, little marionette strings, right? That they're using to control the flying monkey. Now the flying monkey is saying and thinking and feeling what the predator wants them to say and think and feel. They open their mouths and it's a carbon copy of what was coming out of the predator's mouth. But that's why the predator doesn't have to say a damn thing. He convinces his flying monkeys or her flying monkeys to do the work for him or her, and off they go, and there we go, right?
Now, in this way, flying monkeys are often used as a part of a very common narcissistic tactic, smear campaigns. Smear campaigns work when there are lots of people on board with the smear campaign. Now, narcissists are masterful, as we know, at using their charm and their charisma and their power. It's the same way they drew you in once upon a time, and the way they draw in other people. And they use that to draw people close, sometimes to gain their trust or just win them over and fill their ears and their heads with juicy gossip about the person who will become the victim of this smear campaign. Before you know it, the world or whatever system you're in with that person, they believe the narcissist's skewed narrative. And if you have ever been the victim or on the receiving end of a smear campaign, you know it is emotionally devastating, and in some cases, it can destroy careers, families, and lives.
Okay, so safety edge, this really just sounds like office politics. I'm not sure if you're referring to some of the comments or what Dr. Ramani is talking about, but you're really missing the point if that's what you think. This is not just about office politics. This is about predatory personalities and the way that they create a web of influence and coercion around them. And this is what gets lost in the noise of the day-to-day of life and living and the confusions and problems of work and life and this and family and all the other stuff, is all the noise drowns out the reality of what's actually happening. Not all office leaders or bosses or supervisors are narcissistic predators. Many of them run a clean shop, great show, care about their people, want things to get better. They're not there for ego or power. They're there because it's a job, and they're doing their job, and they're trying to do it as best they can. But there are some of us, there are some people out in the world, thankfully a small percentage, who are not doing that. They only look like that's what they're doing. And this show and the talk that we do here is about that. And it can be confused with office politics, but that's not the point. The point is the predatory behavior and the gaslighting and the lies and deception and propaganda campaigns that are carried out by the predator on purpose, premeditatively, in order to destroy their enemies. Not get one over on them, not have a joke, not have a laugh, to destroy their enemies. That's what this is about. Just to be clear about that. This is very real stuff. And that's why I actually pulled this video, is because, as Henny said here, this is someone who is an expert at this stuff. This isn't just my take on things. This is stuff I've lived. And I want to share it, to share the information so that you don't have to live it. That's what's important to me and what the effort is that I'm making here. Okay, so smear campaigns, absolutely, right? Go, go, go. Because gossip slowly turns into smears, slowly turns into accusations, turns into lynch mobs. Kind of the sequence of events. And history proves that this is a social psychology issue, that groups of people can be manipulated into doing some of the most atrocious things you can ever imagine. How does that happen? Why do perfectly good people turn into monsters? This is how. Okay. Let's carry on.
Now, what is amazing to me is that flying monkeys don't even know that they're being groomed for their role of flying monkeys. In this way, the flying monkeys are very much enablers. Now, part of this is the bigger problem like we have in society that I always talk about, which is this idea of how much we enable narcissists. Now, think about how often groups of people make excuses for narcissists. They'll say, that's just how he is, or she doesn't really mean it, her bark is worse than her bite, or my personal favorite is, you're the one who's being difficult. Stop blaming the other person. Boom. Just like that, the narcissist goes from perpetrator to victim in everybody else's eyes.
Boom, right? It's somebody call that minimizing, right? Yeah, I mean, people here are connecting with this already, right? This happens, and it's very isolating, right? It makes you feel really weird. It makes you feel really out of sorts. There's I've said a few times that I've learned so much about myself in the last many months, and when you get targeted, certain ways, for me, it drives me inwards. And what did I do? What am I wrong? What am I doing wrong? How is this happening? And I know I'm not alone in that by any stretch, right? I know you guys totally have had that happen to you in your own life, that you question yourself, you question your reality, you question your identity. You wonder, what did you do to suddenly everybody, seems to hate you? And you didn't really notice that you did anything different or didn't change, or you were always kind of doing what you're doing. And then suddenly like, wait, hey, what's happening here? This is what it is to be at the receiving end of this. So anyway, just putting that out there.
Now, because narcissists have no...
Oh, by the way, sorry about that. I'm just cutting this off here, but I wanted to tell everybody, if you look for this video, and I will put the link to it in the description of this video after the show. I just didn't do it during. I added that picture of the flying monkey in this video. When you look up her video, you won't see that picture there. Just to clarify that. Okay, let's carry on here. Sorry about that. Let me back up. Okay, here we go.
Now, because narcissists have no problem treating people, as I've talked about before, treating people as tools and as conveniences, and as obviously as narcissistic supply, manipulation comes quite easily to them. Now, as a result of this, when they become concerned that somehow they may lose narcissistic supply, or they may lose face, or they may look badly publicly, or they may lose sources of validation, I don't know, because there's a divorce or because of a work issue, then they want to get ahead of it, and they want to ensure that their narcissistic narrative is maintained, and they want to protect themselves from looking bad, because looking good, that superficial presentation, is everything to them. Flying monkeys become an essential tool in looking good when something else is falling apart.
Right? That's the other function that they serve, is their air cover and camouflage for the predator. And they serve to shield the predator from any consequences for for this whole little campaign that they have created and devised. How you tell how somebody is a narcissist, well, there's about 1 million videos on Dr. Ramani's channel about that. So I'm definitely going to first say and lead with, go there. But as we've covered so many times on my channel, there are tons of red flags. The deception, the lying, the behind your back behavior, the ego massaging, the ego bruising that occurs, where they're so easily insulted or so easily take offense at any little thing. But if they do it, it's no big deal. And how dare you even bring it up? There's a ton of red flags with these people, and they're probably a little more common, and you probably run into more of them than you may imagine. Like I said, there are millions of these people out there, and they don't announce themselves. They do the opposite of announcing themselves. They are somebody that you would probably like right away. On first blush, they're amazing. They're charismatic often, not always, but often, especially the predatory types who are really out there preying on people. They may or may not be good looking, but there's something about them that is interesting, fascinating, noteworthy, something attention worthy. And they seem like your best friend. They seem like somebody who's got your back. They seem like somebody who absolutely positively is somebody you could trust, who tells the truth, who is someone that, you would, leave your kids with. And only over time do you start to realize this person has no friends or very few, right? And they have a history of broken relationships. They have a history of going from one place to another. There's historical things that you see that start standing out. And there's behavior things that stand out where you go, wait a minute, but he said that, but I thought, you start catching them out in things, but they're never, ever, ever, ever responsible for any of it. It was never their fault. You were always the one to blame, or somebody else is always to blame, never, ever them. The one thing you can count on that a narcissist will never, ever do is take actual responsibility for something. They may mouth words and they may sound like they're trying to convince you that they are taking responsibility for something, but it never really sticks with them because they have to remain blameless. Have to. All kinds of stuff like that, right? There's a whole, just like with cults, there are characteristics, there's checklists, there's information about this, and I really encourage you to check those things out.
Now, I got to tell you, sadly, until a narcissist happens to you, a lot of people are really clueless. And because so many people are clueless about narcissism, so many people are prime targets for being turned into flying monkeys. Listen, the fact is you were played, or you probably wouldn't be watching these videos, the same way you've been, I've been, so many of us have been played by narcissists. A lot of people don't even know what this is about yet, so they're easy to recruit into being flying monkeys. Now, the most challenging part of the entire flying monkey dynamic is that it is incredibly isolating and alienating, and it feels awful to feel like you're alone in this struggle, especially when you think there are other people who are going to support you and aren't, and then have to recognize that your entire truth has been stolen from you. And it's devastating to witness the people you thought were your friends, your family, your close colleagues, your confidants, to be able to just turn on you like that. Watching someone be recruited and converted into a flying monkey can really feel like a terrible betrayal. That on top of having endured the narcissistic abuse.
Okay, and the part that I wanted to comment on that clip was the beginning part. How it is really a matter of the ignorance of people and the distracted lives of people that most predators get away with what they do. Most enablers, you know, we asked about weaponized empaths earlier, and I'll go out and say most, I can't go pull some study right now and show you most, but my opinion is that most people that a predatory personality converts to their cause or turns, so to speak, they get away with it because of the ignorance and the lack of suspicion on the part of their converted flying monkeys. They just don't know what's happening to them while it's happening. And it doesn't mean that they're blameless for their behavior, especially when it gets awful. But it's that gradual frog in the boiling water thing. That, you know, people who are enablers and flying monkeys of predators often never would think of themselves that way. They don't see themselves as the villain of their story or the villain of somebody else's story, right? We don't go through life thinking about ourselves that way. This is one of the struggles of people who have been victimized by predators, trying to convince the people around them, hey, you know, this is not right. It's perfectly right. It's perfectly okay. What are you talking about? You're the problem here. You're the issue. You're the one making it difficult, right? They're fine. They're not making a problem out of this, right? Or. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight that.
Now, the most horrible part of the entire flying monkey dynamic is the victim blaming piece of it. Now, remember, narcissists are masterful at painting themselves as victims. And as a result, they are able to convince their flying monkeys that the narcissist is the victim. And then the flying monkeys turn around and they will blame you for victimizing the narcissist. Those of you who've been through this flying monkey dynamic, and if you can imagine, even if you haven't, it can feel like living in an alternate universe. It's like stepping into the Matrix or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Red Pill, that was a great comment here. It seems to me that good-natured people could be sucked into this more easily than others. Very much so, because they're more trusting, they're more optimistic, you could say. Maybe rose-colored glasses. No fault. It's no fault of good-natured people who want things to go well in the world that they are that way. The world runs on the shoulders of such people. But they don't tend to be as aware of the red flags of narcissistic predatory manipulation because they don't even go get educated about it. They never even heard about it until they get burned. And even after they get burned, they'll often take it upon themselves and say it was their fault, their responsibility, because they buy into the bullshit from the predator that it's all on you, right? I didn't do anything wrong. You did. I didn't tell you to go do that. You went off and did it. Well, the predator completely told the person to go do that, but they're gaslighting the hell out of them. And a lot of people don't realize what gaslighting really is or how it works, that it's a sustained campaign to actually tear down your own reality or sense of reality with deceptive means. It's not just lying to somebody. It's not just fibbing a couple times. That's not gaslighting somebody. And it's horribly misused on social media these days for that. And gaslighting is not just lying to somebody. Gaslighting is it's like coercive control. It's a premeditated, extended, repeating pattern of behavior. And it works. It works. That's why they do it. Though, the few of us, and I don't just mean me, I mean you guys too, right? The few of us who understand this and are motivated to go learn about this stuff, right, tends to come from the fact of getting burned, as we've gone over. Okay, let's carry on.
So why do narcissists harness other people and turn them against you, for example, in this flying monkey dynamic? For all of the reasons you would expect that they do something like this. Their limited empathy often means that they do not reflect on how this would hurt you or hurt other people, just that they're often breaking up a system or a group of people. People who are narcissistic or toxic are almost blind in their pursuit of validation and of narcissistic supply. So flying monkeys are, in a way, they're cornering the market on all of that. Narcissistic personalities are also very, very vindictive. So flying monkeys become a tool to engage in that kind of vindictiveness. Because what they're doing, in essence, is burning the sources of support, burning your sources of support, and once again, isolating you, which is a much easier position in which to abuse someone.
Okay, so here I will use the example more broadly of talking about, certain ideological problems and issues. And worldwide, right, we get cults of personality built up around political leaders all over the world and through history. And they can create armies of these flying monkeys, sometimes literally armies. They arm them and that kind of thing. We could look at Jim Jones for a second if we wanted to, and the fact that he didn't accomplish what he accomplished in Guyana on his own. There were people down there. There were over 900 people who were murdered down there. But Jim Jones didn't run around doing it all by himself. Right, there was a whole gang of lieutenants who executed his orders, literally executed his orders. That's how far off the rails this can get with these people. It's bad stuff. It's kind of nasty, but I don't know any other way to get it across to people except talk about it openly.
In addition, narcissistic people do thrive on chaos. So flying monkeys contribute to creating that sense of chaos for you and for the other people around you.
Chaos. This is the key word from that little clip that I wanted to highlight real fast, is that it's not necessarily always an ordered activity. It doesn't always make a lot of sense. More chaos, the better, as far as the predator is concerned, because that means more obfuscation or confusion in trying to trace down where it's coming from. Predators are masters of camouflaging themselves, not just with a smile and with love bombing, but through these strategic manipulations of stories they tell people. They'll tell person A one thing, and they'll tell person B something else entirely about the target. So two different people are carrying around two different ideas of what's going on. Maybe they're similar, maybe they're related, but they're different. And that creates, if they ever compare notes, and here we're talking about 2 people, how about 2,000 people? Now we got, a bunch of different stories or varying narratives that create a lot of confusion. And that chaos and confusion, people will invent their own ideas of how to make it make sense. They contribute to it, in other words. They make it their own story, and then they carry it forward. And this is how you get these incredible variations of the basic seed story that the predator plants. And it gets really weird, and people go on fly off the damn handle. And we see this, I saw this today. talking with somebody about the anti-psychiatry movement and how I've engaged with some of these people on Twitter recently. Whew. You know, it's really quite something. And you get individuals who are all united around this idea that psychiatry is really bad. But then you get these variations in the stories where people talk about how ECT is delivered to, you know, children in hospitals or something when, you know, within days of being born. And nobody said that. This person's just creating that out of whole cloth. They're building on the narrative. They're contributing to it and making it, you know, putting their own stuff into it. And when you know, this is a telephone game. I mean, really, it's what people do. It's not just narcissists and flying monkeys that do this, but this is how it gets even worse than you'd think it would get, and much more confusing to sift and sort through. It's damn near impossible. It's like trying to backtrace, you know, Morse code or something. It's really hard to connect all the dots. So, okay. That's an interesting question. Aren't most of these people psychopaths as opposed to narcissists? Aren't narcissists terrible liars as opposed to psychopaths? No, bud, no. Psychopathy is a mental condition. Narcissism is a disorder. These two things can exist in a person at the same time or independently. There are not narcissism in and of itself is not necessarily predatory or malignant. There are different types of narcissism. So, we have to split these things. You start asking questions, we get into the details, and it gets a little complicated kind of quickly. So, that's why you see me fall back to predator. Dr. Ramani talks about narcissists. She's being very specific in her language. I, am not a diagnostician, clinician. And so I prefer using the word predator because it's a bit more of an umbrella term that doesn't have to get into psychiatric diagnoses as such. Okay, good. And let me just check. There was one other comment I wanted to check on real fast. Nope. Okay. Can't find it. Never mind. We're going to carry on here.
And there can be an interesting twist in these stories. The narcissist may turn around, and once they're done with the flying monkeys, they're done, the flying monkeys have done their harm on you, they're done, guess what? The narcissist may discard the flying monkeys too. Now that is an interesting day, and it's often a rather sad one. Sometimes at that point, that's when the flying monkeys may recognize the truth. And your flying monkeys may even come back around to you feeling rather contrite. They may even be genuinely apologetic. But after being hurt by them, after being betrayed by them, it's really up to you to consider whether you want to stick out that olive branch. Forgiveness, making amends, all of that, those are a very, very personal process. And however that rolls out for you, it has to happen on your schedule.
Yeah, this I wanted to highlight, underline, boldface for everybody, is that when people come, well, let me put it this way. Maybe you can relate. I have said a few times that there's a handful of people in Scientology right now who, if they came out, I'm not going to forgive them. Just forget it. I'm not doing it. I'm not saying that I would never forgive them. I might have said that before, I'm not sure. But as I sit here right now, I'm not thinking that I would never forgive them. I'm thinking that they're going to have to bend over backwards. And I doubt that any of them are, A, going to come out of Scientology, and B, if they do, that they're ever going to beg for my forgiveness. They could give a shit about me. Fine. I don't really care about them either, right? They can rot in Scientology for as far as I'm concerned. These are people who harm me in ways that, and other people, by the way, every single one of these people that I've named or thought of. And I think there's about 5 of them. are people who can rot in hell. I have no compassion or care left for them. They harmed so many people in such vicious ways. I'm talking about some OSA staff, some security people, some people who really did understand what they were doing. In hindsight, I look back on those people and I'm like, those were people who were predatory personalities before they got into Scientology. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's how they acted when I was around. So I don't have to forgive and I don't have to forget, neither do you. Just because somebody turns over a new leaf and comes back and says, oh, gee, I really didn't understand, you take your time with them. You are under no obligation whatsoever to offer forgiveness or let bygones be bygones. That is 100% up to you. You have the power in that situation. And don't abuse it, of course. Don't use it to abuse them. That wouldn't be correct. But not returning their phone calls right away, right? I mean, they're under no obligation at all. This is something you will be guilted for. This is something other people will minimize. This is something other people will tell you you're wrong for not forgiving, for not forgetting, for not moving on, for not being dramatic about it. Oh, people will judge you and blame you till the end of the earth, right? All the days of your life. Screw them. They're not living your life. You are. And I wanted to put that out there, really bluntly. I don't know the answer to the question of whether there are more males than females when it comes to people who actually are diagnosed with NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not sure. My answer off the top of my head is no. I think this is probably pretty evenly distributed in society in terms of gender or sex. But we could look up some stuff. Let's carry on.
And here's one more point I want to make sure that we don't forget. Please make sure that you never get recruited and turned into a flying monkey. Now that you know how flying monkeys are created, make sure if someone brings you gossip or tries to turn you around on someone you traditionally thought was an okay person, go to that person, go to that other person and find out what's going on. Somebody's telling you something about a third party, go find out what the real story is. You're not in third grade. You have the capacity to reach out and listen to both sides of a story and judge the entire issue that's in front of you, instead of being drawn into the sometimes rather seductive, gossipy world of gaslighting and theatrics and manipulation that a narcissist can use to turn you into a flying monkey. Some of you know what it felt like to be on the receiving end of that. You want to ensure that you don't do that to someone else.
Okay, cool. So really great advice there. I really don't need to restate it, but I will say this as a content creator and as somebody who has fans and followers and people who like my stuff and follow me, and some of you interact with me offline and social media and that sort of thing. I don't want a single one of you to ever be this. No, I don't. It's not my wish or desire in any way. And I've never even felt the need to have to say that out loud, because I don't direct or order anybody to go do anything when it comes to that kind of thing. Attack my enemies, this kind of nonsense. I don't want that from you. Yeah, I want the world to be an even-keeled place. I don't want there to be predators, but it doesn't really matter what I want. As far as that goes, they're there. They're out there. And I just want people to spot them and be able to kind of, move on and not fall under their trance and that kind of thing. Yeah. So just thought I'd say that.
So what do you do? What exactly are you supposed to do if you are faced with flying monkeys? First, I'd tell you, definitely don't defend yourself. It is so tempting to try to explain and defend yourself to someone you once trusted. But I hate to say it, it's almost like one of those sci-fi movies where somebody kind of gets a chip put in their brain and they're converted into the alien race. Once the narcissist has their ear, it's like they're now converted into a cult and they can't hear or see straight. If this person didn't have it in them to come to you in the first place and ask you for your side of the story and was willing to buy the narcissist version of events, hook, line, and sinker, ask yourself, did this person ever really have your back? And is it really worth engaging with them?
Important questions to ask yourself. I have noticed this episode that we have had some great questions from you guys in the comments about narcissism itself. So I think next week we're going to do a show on narcissism. Now, I'm going to obviously refer you to Dr. Ramani and experts on that topic, but I think it's time we talk about this specifically. So let's do a show next week about that, okay? Okay, good. Let's see here. Yes, Bed123. Is statement analysis a useful tool for distinguishing lies and truthful statements, in addition to asking open-ended questions? Yes, it definitely is, if I understand your question right. Analyzing the words and phrases and ideas and cliches and tropes that a person uses in their day-to-day and that kind of thing, and how and what those things mean, and hidden meanings, or not hidden meanings that you're interpreting, but that are clearly being communicated to others, right? Subtext, we could say, that kind of thing. Absolutely, that's all good for analysis points on that. Yes, Red Pill, thank you. Okay, good. Now we have just a couple more clips, and then we're gonna be wrapping this thing up. So let's finish this off here.
Secondly, I'd also say get some therapy to sort this out, but please make sure it's with a therapist who understands these themes of flying monkeys and this kind of mobbing mentality. Those who don't understand this may paint you out as being paranoid and persecutory, which you know is not true. Whomever you talk with about this has to understand what this flying monkey dynamic is about.
Okay, so advice just like I give all the time, right? Get a good therapist. You're going to have to shop around if you want therapy. It's not just roll it up and the first person that you find is going to be the right fit. Sometimes it happens. I've been very lucky that way in many ways with therapists I've run into, but not psychs. I've had a couple different psychiatrists I've gone through. Just finding the right fit. You know, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a stigma or a weirdness or something strange. I want you to understand that's normal. We got to find the right person for us and the right people for us, and that includes in our mental and medical health providers. So just something to keep in mind. And also when you know, and somebody who's really going to understand the situations that you've been through, and that they're going to understand you. They're not going to gaslight you or try to tell you that what happened to you isn't what happened to you. You don't have to take that from anybody, even a therapist. Your life is yours, you know? Okay.
Flying monkey smear campaigns, all of it can be quite traumatic and quite triggering, especially if you come from a family dynamic where you were a scapegoat. And now this is the hard part. The last part here is that you need to start cultivating new relationships. You may feel at this point that you're in a dark spy movie when you're being flying monkeyed, and it feels like everyone is starting to turn against you and everyone's a double agent. But you've got to hold on tight to your reality. Flying monkeys, it can be a devastating experience because it's bad enough with the narcissist, but you might have even like, they're a narcissist, I can let them go. But the flying monkey dynamic is tough, especially if these are people who were once really dear to you, and these are people you once trusted.
Yeah, thank you, Oswald, for that comment about Iron Manning this argument. I try to be as stark as I can. Lorna, great question, a great point there. I'll just tell you right now, Lorna Carlton-esque here, would like to hear your viewpoint on the number of people in Scientology who are these types of personalities per capita compared to outside. I don't know that the percentages are wildly different inside and outside of Scientology. It would be, God, I wish we could do studies on this. You know, cults are, like, especially Scientology, are just so not transparent. And man, though, this would be a really interesting question to get answered, like with real numbers and like quantitatively, right? I'm going to tell you from my experience. Okay, I'll tell you my viewpoint about it is, okay, 5 people that I'm not willing to ever forgive or forget, right? They come out of Scientology, they're going to have to beg for it. I knew thousands of Scientologists. Over the course of all the time I was in Scientology, I met personally and interacted with, worked with thousands of them. So I'd say, you know, from my anecdotal experience, I'd say the percentages are pretty low of predatory opportunists who jump into a cult in order to prey on other people because they see a control framework or structure that's going to serve them. You know, such people definitely happen. That happens. I know, I'm sure I know some of the names of some of those people in Scientology. You know, they look at Scientology and they don't look at it as the bridge to total freedom for their own personal spiritual immortality. They look at it as a place where they can get away with stuff and where they can do things to people because they see kind of what's really going on. And they go, oh yeah, I'll sign up. I'll get involved in this. And away we go. And they get themselves into a position of, you know, of petty dictator or power, you know, as some middle management person or some upper, you know, person. And away they go. Rarely did I see somebody like that rise all the way to the top. Like the inner circle of Miscavige. Clearly Miscavige is such a type of personality, by the way. But they're, you know, but they don't like, I don't know. I don't want to make generalities about that. I'm not going to say anything further about that. That's what I could say about that. Okay. Red pill is a trauma therapist is somebody who has specialized in learning about treatment modalities or treatment methods that directly address and deal with people's trauma. There are lots of different methods of treating trauma. There's cognitive, there's CBT, trauma-focused CBT. There's trauma-focused EMD, you know, EMDR, I guess. There's some kind of trauma-focused emotion-based therapy treatments. There's a lot of names for a lot of these different things, but it's a therapist who's really going to specialize in that discipline of psychological counseling or treatment, where they really hone in on that, versus, say, a therapist who specializes in family relationship counseling or post-traumatic stress disorder, which is actually, no, that would be kind of related to a trauma-focused therapist. Sorry. What else might somebody focus on? Oh, child therapy, right? Not necessarily trauma related. There could be other issues, stages of development issues, things like that are not necessarily all based on trauma. Trauma isn't the single answer to everything wrong with people. So you have other treatment methods and stuff that don't go directly into trauma. Okay. Great. Here we go here.
And sadly, the way that a narcissist's mind works, it's always for them about strategy, and it's always about getting to other people first. For them, life is like a big court of law, and they're always thinking strategically.
Okay, I wanted to highlight that clip right there, as why we talked about this earlier. This is strategic, premeditated, purposeful behavior on the part of the narcissist or the predator. They're not doing what they're doing by accident. And this has got to be understood. This is so important to understand, because way too many people, in their ignorance of this topic or these kinds of personalities, go through life with these rose-colored glasses, and they think that, you know, that everybody is all on the same playing field or something, or everybody's kind of coming at life the same way. They project themselves onto everybody else, but everybody else is not you, and they're not me. There are some people who are monsters in a human skin. They're human, but boy, you know, they sure don't act like it. They have no compassion, no care, no idea that those things are even important. And some of them get really good at hiding that. And they fool you, and they fool me. They fool all of us for a while. But their actions always speak louder than their words, and eventually the negative consequences of what they do comes out, and that's why they go from place to place to place. That's why they hop around. Hubbard was constantly fly by night. He was constantly shifting from one town to another, always trying to stay one step ahead of the consequences that were chasing him. All the way through the 50s. That's why he was bounding around all over the place. That's why he ended up in England. And they couldn't deal with being in America anymore. There were too many people who were onto him. That's why he formed the Sea Org and went out in the ocean, is because England got on to him and they were ready to kick his ass out of England. And all the Scientologists, they were like, we're done with you. The 60s are when the governments of the world really took their best shot at Scientology, and they missed. And L. Ron Hubbard got away. And they didn't really chase him hard enough. And that's why we still have Scientology, is when the opportunities to take that guy out, they missed. The FDA missed, the IRS missed, the Royal Commissions in Australia missed, the UK government missed. Hubbard just stayed one step ahead of him the whole time. And he spun a great story, and he had followers the entire time, flying monkeys, who were more than happy to serve at his feet, literally. He had children lighting his cigarettes and taking them out of his mouth. And children as flying monkeys. That's how sick and twisted L. Ron Hubbard was. That's how sick and twisted this picture can get. And people don't want to necessarily know that, or want to deal with that, or confront the fact that that's the world we live in. But it is. So that's why this stuff's important. Yes, that's Dr. Romani in the corner. And we're about to do, I think, the last or second to last clip.
In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy was able to throw a bucket on the witch, and the flying monkey scattered, and the witch disappeared. Now, unfortunately, it's not that easy in real life. In many ways, you do have kind of that proverbial bucket of water to throw on the narcissist and make those flying monkeys scattered. And part of it is to not play their game. Recognize it for what it is. And yes, I acknowledge that it can fill you with grief, and it can be a really challenging experience. But once you don't play their ground game, you can safeguard yourself and also make a commitment to ensure you never do this to someone else.
Okay, and that is the end of that, right? Is her warning there to not let this happen to you, right? Because we're all susceptible to it. Like I said earlier, and I can't stress this enough also, gaslighting works. That's why predators do it. Lying, deceiving, love bombing, creating cognitive dissonance in their targets, long sustained campaigns of propaganda. These things work. They work on you. They work on me. That's why these guys do it. The only way that we can armor ourselves up to not fall prey to that is to recognize it early on. That's the best thing we can possibly do, and then get it the hell out of our lives as quickly as possible so that it's not having those negative consequences on us. That's the trick of navigating the world, because we can't just pull out a gun and shoot them. That's not going to work. We don't live in that world anymore. And we can't just, and besides, we could be wrong, right? Which is always a problem. Because a lot of this also can fall down to, our point of view, right? As Obi-Wan Kenobi so wisely said, a great many of the truths we cling to depend greatly upon our point of view. And that's one of the ways that they'll get you, by the way, is they'll present this reasonable picture of, well, I'm just another guy, and, oh, I never meant any harm. Oh, no, I didn't mean, oh, come on, bullshit. Look at the patterns, look at the behavior, look at the past behavior. That's how you know. These things don't just happen. They're not just organically occurring. They're purposeful. It's meant to be happening. And we can fall into that. Any of us can. So So let's educate ourselves on that. And there we go. Okay, thank you, Red Pill. All right, so those were all the points I wanted to make tonight. We did an extended episode on this tonight. Thank you for sticking with me and watching through to the end. I appreciate it. Looks like we had decent viewership this evening for me and my show. I will take it. I hope you got something out of this. I hope this was educational, informative, and entertaining. And I hope you will check out Dr. Ramani. Like I said, I'll get the link to that later. And also you will see a podcast tomorrow from me, a 2.5-hour really go get 'em conversation about landmark form. All right. And then we will do a live Q&A on Sunday as usual. So I'll see you guys on Sunday. All right, guys. With that, let's wrap it up. Bye-bye.